Well, Mississippi State just got disrespected, and it starts with Tomas Valincius being left off the SEC team. Yeah, we need to talk about it.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in. This is Locked On Mississippi State, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. I'm Jaron Spor. That's Landon, McBride. We're going to break down everything that matters in Mississippi State athletics. Here's what we've got for today. We're going to finish with our latest recruiting report where things stand right now. Mississippi State did get a commit. I knew I wasn't crazy. We'll talk about that at the end. We'll also talk about the softball team taking the series over South Carolina, what it means for them going forward. But we got to start with these all SEC team put out by 64 Analytics. It's interesting. I'll just put it that way. So they did their all SEC team. Tyler Pitzer is the only one that made it for Mississippi State as a reliever. Again, if you didn't know from the title, it's an analytical driven, ranking. And so it dove into a lot of that, but Tomas Valincius not on the board. And the crazy thing is they put 3 starters on there. Andreas Alvarez, Connor Fennell, and Russell Sandifer from Auburn, Vanderbilt, and Florida made it. But no Tomas Valincius, who you could argue has been the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, and I get this is for like the week, but his start was better than Russell Sandifer's. I mean, I'm pretty sure a 0 ERA is better than a 3.12, no matter what other analytics.
Right.
There. And that's the thing I have. Like, I love a lot of what these guys do with some of these numbers you get. Like, they have FIP. Never seen FIP for college before. And I love it. I also didn't know you could have a negative FIP, but apparently Tyler Pitzer had a negative FIP. So that's a fun little wrinkle.
Yeah.
But the other issue that I really had was they had their top 10 pitchers from D1 this past week. Blink is not on there either.
Yeah.
Not on there either.
So it's not like he was close to making the all SEC team.
Yeah. Apparently he wasn't even in the top 10 pitchers in baseball this past week.
Yeah.
Wasn't last week either, when his start was even better. So right. I'm not sure, I love analytics, so I don't know what's running through their algorithm that is saying what he's doing isn't good. But they like Mississippi State. They have us #1 in their poll.
Yeah, #1 team in the country.
Pitzer's the only player they like.
Yeah, right. It's this is the thing with analytics. I like analytics too. Landon and I, we talk a lot of analytics. We both like analytics. Now, with that being said, I don't agree with the people that are just 100% analytics, just like I don't agree with the people that are 100% eye test. You have to be able to look at a couple things. Like, you need analytics are supposed to support what your eye is telling you. And
it's supposed to match up.
Yeah, it's supposed to match up. And so if you're, and sometimes it's like, analytics can show you something that maybe your eye isn't catching. Oh, I didn't see that. You watch a guy and you're like, man, he's not that accurate, a passer, but then you go look and it's like, actually his catch percentage was really high, or his completion percentage should have been pretty high, and it was more the receiver running the wrong route or dropping it or whatever. There's some analytics like that help, but when you watch Valincius pitch, he's arguably the best pitcher in baseball, and he's been that way. He pitched really well these last 2 weeks. Again, it wasn't his strongest start this last week, but it was still a really good one, like really good.
Shutout ball, but it wasn't
right. Yeah, it was a very good start, and the one before that was very good as well. And for him not to be in the top 10, and your analytics saying he's not top 10, you need to scrap your analytics and start going back to the drawing board and figure it out. That's where the two aren't lining up, and that's where there's a problem. If it was like, hey, our analytics said that he was good, but he was the 4th best. He's just off the board. He's the 4th. Okay, you could argue that those at least somewhat line up. And it's possible, which I again, this would be another dumb thing if they did this, but it's possible that they did this, where they kind of make their analytics go based off of what they expect from the player, if that makes sense. So, Valincius has been amazing this year, so he has a higher expectation than some of these other guys. So him having, 5 innings and shutout ball is very good for everyone just about, but it's not exactly what he's been doing, so he gets knocked for that. Like, if it was something like that, then I guess you could make an argument, but if you're doing that, that's dumb too. That's not how analytics are supposed to work. Analytics are supposed to take out all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to just be, this is what the data says. If you didn't know who the player was, you didn't know what team he played for, you didn't know his name, nothing. This is what the data says he did. That's what analytics are supposed to tell you. And if the analytics are telling you that Tomas Valincius was not a top 10 pitcher in baseball the last 2 weeks, you got to scrap it. You got to scrap it. So I think that because their analytics has us number 1 in the country. So
the only thing I could think of that may be dropping him is, one, the innings pitched from this past week could be a big knock. That might be something that they're weighting heavily. BIP, the fielding independent of pitching, that may be something that's weighted heavily. And since that's not a stat that's readily available for the rest of college outside of a few analytic type websites, that's not something that you can really fact check and be like, well, you're wrong on that. And right. I also, looking at their stuff, I have no idea what OPS-A is. I don't know what type of on-base percentage type formula or that might be opponent's average, which is a very weird way to abbreviate it now that I'm thinking about it. I've never seen it abbreviated like that. So maybe he had a little bit higher there for some reason, but he didn't give up a ton of hits. So I'm not really sure what that could be. But it's just weird. And I love analytics because it tells you things you didn't know you needed to know. But it has kind of taken some of the fun out of baseball. Because you remember how, back when the only close thing we had to analytics was on base percentage, courtesy of Billy Bean. It was just, I like this guy. I don't know why, but I like this guy.
There's something about him
The first one that came to my mind, pitcher Mike Timlin. Looked back at his stats today after going through this. Not that great of a reliever, but in my mind, he was clutch. He never let me down when I needed him. And that's, now you can make an argument. Oh, this guy's better based off these 17 designer stats as opposed to, I think he's good. So it kind of ruined some of the fun of the baseball debate. But I don't know. I'm going to give him one more week because I like what they're doing here. But if Tomas goes out there, throws another gem, and he's not on this list, I'm going to start questioning kind of how it's working. And might just shoot him a DM, be like, hey, I'm going to need some explanations.
Yeah. Maybe we could get him on the show to explain the process with it. But keep your analytics when it comes to grading teams. But when it comes to grading players, let's change it a little bit. Just because you got us number 1, so the team-wise, we're loving it. But I will say this, that is jokingly, Mississippi State should not be the number 1 ranked team. So that's another thing where the analytics aren't lining up with what is happening on the field. Mississippi State is a very good team. They're a World Series team. Like, we've talked about this. They are a college World Series team. They're a team that can win it all. But they're not the number 1 team in the country.
Not yet.
They're just not.
It might be by the end of it.
By the end of it, yes. But I mean, as of right now, they're not. And last week they were number 2, and that was with Arkansas. Arkansas obviously lost this past week in the series, so they dropped way down. But before that, they had beaten you in a series, and so they deserve to be ranked higher than you. UCLA, I know you choked it late, but UCLA should have been ranked higher than you still. So, and I think the only one ranked higher than them was actually Texas, if I remember correctly, when they were number 2 in this last week's rankings. Texas goes and sweeps Oklahoma, the number 8 ranked team at the time, now number 11 ranked. And I know 2 of those were an extra inning walk-offs. The other one was a 1-run win in the first game, or a 3-run win in the first game or something like that. So they were all very close. But that's a top 10 program they swept, and then you jumped them. So I don't really know when you swept Ole Miss, who's, Ole Miss is solid. They were number 18, but they weren't number 8. And so it wasn't, it obviously for both was a very big rivalry. So you can't say, well, one's a rivalry and one wasn't kind of thing. So, I mean, their analytics, they might need to go back to the drawing board a little bit. But I would love to have them. Maybe they'll come on the show and explain that.
I'm wrong. It was 2 weeks ago they left Valincius off. Last week he was there. They had him number 2. My apologies. 264. Okay. There's 2, but hey, after last week, I was going to be really shocked because that was his 7th shutout, 12K game.
Yes, so that was his best game of the season,
so
arguably.
He made number 2 pitcher in D1. Their batting is another one, just kind of confusing a little bit that we with how we've seen Jacob Parker go off. Ryder Woodson have a few just monster games.
Right.
Since Reed Stallman, I haven't seen them on any list. But I really like what they're doing. It's a different way to look at the game. And this is all in fun. We don't have a beef with you guys. If you stumble across
Not yet.
We might.
It might be coming. All right, coming up next, Mississippi State softball bounced back with a series win over South Carolina. We'll talk about that next.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. And I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. And instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. And they'll handle everything from your W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction possible. And you can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file your taxes last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
All right, well, get your first month of the Everydayer Club for free. When you use code MARCH, you unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat where I'm hanging out daily. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and to claim that free month. All right, so the softball series, softball team absolutely had to have a series win over South Carolina, and that's exactly what they did. They did lose the first game 0-2, but then they bounced back with a 2-0 and then a 4-3 win. That series wrapped up on Monday. South Carolina came in ranked number 23. Again, another solid team. But after losing the first 2 series of the season, SEC, which one, again, was against number 1 at the time, Tennessee. So it's a little different. But the other series was a loss to Georgia that you would have hoped to get a series win in. But on the flip side, they're even with Mississippi State. It was at Georgia. Okay. Yeah. So this one is at home. You needed a series win, and that's exactly what they pulled off.
Yeah, they pulled it off. And Peja Goold, another very impressive weekend. Total was it 12 innings of 1-run ball with 14 strikeouts. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah. I mean, that first had these in reverse order. I guess is the last game actually. At least Alyssa Faircloth came in and gave up 2 runs in 1 inning, which is very unlike her for this season. But team was able to hang on and get enough hits. And I think this is kind of how this team is going to have to win, is a lot of these like almost like 1st to 5 type of games, because we haven't seen them really put up a ton of runs since they got into SEC play. It's just been against the midweek games or the games before SEC. So this offense is solid, but they're not going to really run people out of the building. You're kind of have to rely on the pitching to keep the score down a little bit.
Yeah, and even in the game they lost 2-0, Alyssa Faircloth pitched pretty well. She pitched all 7 innings.
Yeah, she pitched start, but
yeah, she did allow 7 hits, but she only allowed 2 earned. She walked only 1, which was a hit by pitch, and she struck out 9. I mean, she pitched really well. Just the offense couldn't come alive in that one, and that's kind of been the worry that I've had about this team is Faircloth has been very good this year, and Goold has been very good this year. You mentioned her start on Saturday where she only allowed 2 hits, struck out 9. She did walk 3, but didn't allow a run, and they didn't allow a run all day. And then obviously in the last game you talked about it where she pitched 5 and only allowed 3 hits, allowed 1 run and struck out 5. She's been very good. Faircloth, again, been very good. But they go through these offensive kind of slumps where it can bite them. And that's, the South Carolina loss, you allow 2 points in softball, or 2 runs in softball. You're feeling pretty good about that. That was kind of the weird thing about the Georgia series was, Georgia was able to get after these pitchers a little bit. They scored 6 in one game, 7 in another game. Like they were able to get after them a little bit. Whereas that's one of their strengths. That's not going to happen a lot this season. And so that's something they're going to have to get going is the bats. Because if the bats get going, then we're talking again back to the super regional talk that we had earlier in the season. If the bats can't get going, this is a team that can lose in the regional.
Yeah, and the bats, they're getting some hits, they're getting some runs, but it kind of seems, and I don't know, when you don't know why it's not quite clicking because everyone's getting some hits over the course of the series. It's just they're not able to string enough together to manufacture the runs. It's almost like they're just waiting for the big hit almost every game to just bust it open. And against good teams, that's how you lose, is waiting for the big hit. You have to find a way to scratch across a run here or 2 runs there just throughout the game. And they just haven't been able to do that in the SEC series. I mean, they have obviously on occasion, and because they're winning some games, but it's just not consistent. If they were able to, get a walk, steal a base, bunt, RBI ground out, there's you a run out of nowhere. So they just haven't been able to string together enough hits with productive outs to get just these small little runs to quit losing games 2-0.
Right.
Things like that. It's just kind of frustrating when we've seen this team be able to hit and put up huge run totals. They're just not clicking right now.
Yeah, it was something that early in the season we thought was a strength, and the pitcher kind of the question marks. But then again, they've been pitching great all year, and so you would expect them to kind of get hot again. Maybe it's SEC play. Just they have played some really good teams, so maybe it's just some teams starting to figure them out a little bit and stuff like that.
It's not going to let up in the SEC.
No, it's not. Hopefully you get to go to a regional and you stay away from an SEC team and all the way through the super regional even. Hopefully you can just kind of avoid those type of teams. But no, again, a really good series win, and now you get a break before you play Florida. So you get a midweek game this week. So you get to kind of rest a little bit. And that's for those that are wondering, that's probably why the series was Saturday through Monday, was because there's no midweek game, get a little break. But so it'll be fun to see. Can they take one against Florida like they did against Tennessee? I mean, that'd be massive.
Yeah, it would. Florida's is a very good team and has been playing really good so far lately. So it's going to be a tough task to go there and get a win.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, we got to talk some football recruiting because they did land a commit. We'll talk about that next. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you had to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Mississippi State has obviously had several recruiting weekends. There's been a lot of high school people on campus, just like a lot of teams across the country. Several players have announced that they've gotten offers or that they're going to be at the spring game or the spring scrimmage, I guess you want to call it. So that's a lot of the recruiting that's going out there. But they did land a commitment out of the transfer portal. Yes, if you're curious, how were they able to do that? If you were in the portal before the portal closed, you're still able to sign and play this upcoming season. And that was the case for former Syracuse transfer linebacker James Hurd. So he started his career as a defensive end before transitioning to linebacker. And I believe he plays kind of that rush linebacker type of spot. But his first year was at West Virginia. Then his next 2 years were at Syracuse. That's where he moved to linebacker. But in his career, he's played 24 games, has 27 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and has 1 interception, no sacks on his career. He does have a forced fumble as well, which was this past season. This past season was his best year. 20 of those tackles happened this last year. 1.5 tackles for loss, and the forced fumble was all this past season. Again, just another guy that's going to bring some depth. Is he this big game changer? Remains to be seen, but he's going to bring some depth.
Yeah, he's a depth piece. He'll fight for, like I said, I think he's probably going to be more of like a pass rusher. I mean, he's listed kind of like 6'2", 230. I mean, that doesn't really, sometimes you can see someone's size and you know exactly what their role is. That could be anything. Right. When you are a linebacker and you are 6'2", 230, that just means you're a linebacker. Like you could be a coverage guy, you could be a pass rusher, you could be a run stuffer. That's just kind of your generic linebacker size. But since he started out as a D end, I'd expect a lot of rushing, maybe kind of like a run fit type linebacker. You put him in for that. I don't have high hopes, but I think he can bring something. It just kind of seems to fit how he fits in with the rest of the defense, what, the defensive coach staff can get out of him, what his role is. But depth is good. The linebackers had issues last year. Bring in more bodies.
Yeah, exactly. You need more depth. We talked about it on yesterday's show, how this isn't how this team, it didn't have a lot of depth. They just don't. And so you need the bodies and guys that have been, put up some production. Again, I'm not talking like he's this All-American that's put up a ton of production, but he has some production at a Power 4 program. And so when you have that, that's never a bad thing. And he's still young. He was a redshirt sophomore this last year. Now I know he's transitioning to his redshirt junior year, so he's getting older, but he's got 2 years left, and you hope to get the most out of him and maximize everything he had potential wise. And so we'll see if they're able to do that, and if Arnett is able to pull something out of him, especially. But all right, well, thanks for tuning in today to Locked On Mississippi State. On tomorrow's show, we're gonna have to talk a lot more baseball. We got Jeff Levy to talk about. We've got our upset rank alert coming out on Thursday, like we always do. So we got a lot to talk about on tomorrow's show. So make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Mississippi State to get all the latest episodes. Reminder, we're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. If you never miss an episode, the Everdayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Mississippi State ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to the custom link in the show notes to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Basketball. For Locked On Mississippi State, I'm Jaron. That's Landon. Until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.